Here's Dean. He's ready to see all of you this morning. And we have another special book. And this book is also about the beach that Dean picked out. And now he's on the floor, but he'll be back. And this book is called The Lighthouse Cat. There's his tail. And this is also a story about a very special cat that has a very special job, just like in the book we read with Sara. The Lighthouse Cat by Sue Stainton and Anne Mortimer. Come here, Deanie. Come on up. He's right down here. There he is. There's his tail. He'll come up while we're reading. He'll definitely come up. There he is. Here he is. You say hi, everybody. Say hi to all the children. All right. You can tell he loves this book. The Lighthouse Cat. The old lighthouse stood proudly on the very edge of the rocks and sparkled its message over the mood of the sea. Blue seas lapped and whispered, green seas danced, and every once in a while, black seas raged. Sorry, I had trouble with that sentence. The lighthouse was watched over by only a straggle of sugar-colored cottages that balanced high on the edge of the cliffs, crawling slowly down to a fishing village further along the bay. You could scramble down the slippery rocks, but the only easy way to the lighthouse was by boat. See, make sure you guys get to see Deed a little bit too. At the very top of the old lighthouse, the great 24-candle lantern sent its light nearly as far as the sky. At dawn, yawning, the lonely lighthouse keeper scanned the wide ocean for ships. Keeping the candles lit was his most important job. Without fail, his pocket watch would remind him to check the lantern light and trim the candle wicks to trim the candle wicks every half hour. It's early. I'm definitely having trouble reading this morning. It was well known that without the old lighthouse, the jagged rocky coastline would be littered with shipwrecks. Every Friday, if the sea was friendly, a boat from the fishing village would bring supplies to the lighthouse keeper. On one particular Friday, he piled the boxes high on the round kitchen table and realized it was already time to check the lantern. Up he climbed to where the 24 candles glowed obediently. Sometimes the lighthouse keeper would try to make things more interesting and gallop up 3 steps at a time, or hop down one leg. But usually he plodded. Down he went, thinking of lunch, and suddenly rolled head over heels, thump, all the way down. There he found himself nose to nose with something. That something had bright yellow eyes and was swirled with stormy colors of silver shadowy fish. When something meowed, the lighthouse keeper chuckled and called him Mackerel. Then he laughed and laughed and laughed. This was the best thing in this week's groceries. The two became inseparable. Little Mackerel would follow the lighthouse keeper everywhere. Up, down. Mackerel made friends with the seagulls and the puffins and explored every nook of the rocky outcrop. He gazed at himself in the rock pools and quietly learned about crabs and slippery seaweed. Mackerel knew how to scan the sea, and when he was spotted a whale or a boat, he would tap the lighthouse keeper's nose or jump onto his shoulder. Every night without fail, the two of them would go up to the very top of the lighthouse, and watch the night seas and keep the candles burning. Sometimes on sunny days, they would add another coat of paint to the lighthouse red and white stripes, or sit on the very edge of the rocks and watch for dolphins. When the tide was really low, they would scour the beach and collect driftwood, so that on stormy days, the lighthouse keeper could set to work on his carved and round furniture. Once they even found a message in a bottle. The lighthouse keeper loved his lighthouse with its round rooms. Now he whistled and was never, ever the tiniest bit lonely. With Mackerel, the lighthouse was the best and only place in the world. And still without fail, they would check the lantern light every half hour. That's a big job. Every day and every night was the same except for one, and it was known and feared that in times of terrible storms, the candles could blow out. One dark night, the black clouds gathered and sped and whisked through the heavens. The sea leapt in frenzy of the command of the storm. The waves rose higher and the moon kept blinking. In one huff, the wind gathered all its strength and blew out the candles, as though they were on a birthday cake. Now the lighthouse stood blind as the wind spiraled delightedly around. Shivering, Mackerel gazed hard at the sea, watching the small fishing boats disappear. Was that two eyes flashing at him from the boat? Where was the lighthouse keeper? For an instant, the moon lit up in Mackerel's yellow eyes, and he fled down, down, down. Then out the rocky outcrop, Mackerel saw the lighthouse keeper frantically waving a lantern, but the wind blew that out too, like a feather. Mackerel knew what he had to do. He sped up to the top of the lighthouse, and he caterwauled and screamed at the top of his voice from the moment the wind stopped to listen. Mackerel's yells reached the twitching ears of every cat sleeping in the cottages dotted the high cliffs. Then 11 cats, and all caterwauling and screaming, came slipping and sliding, running and jumping and tumbling down the cliffside. In the chaos, plant pots crashed, fishing nets unraveled, and onions and potato bumped down the cliffs after them. Within minutes, 11 wet and wailing cats had sped up to the top of the lighthouse. Mackerel was waiting one by one, and as each jumped up next to him and gazed at the thrashing fishing boat. All 12 cats called to the moon, and again the wind stopped to listen. The clouds parted, the moon peeped through and reflected the reflection in their cat's eyes. At that very moment, the lighthouse keeper looked up in desperation. He saw 24 little lights at the very top of the lighthouse where the lantern should shine. Can you see that? 24 little cat eyes. Surely the fishing boat must see them. Up, the lighthouse keeper ran. He watched wide-eyed. He hoped, he prayed. Then very slowly the little fishing boat turned miraculously away from the rocks. Again, Mackerel saw the two eyes flash back from him from the boat. The 12 cats all looked around, and they smiled. Much later, in a tumble-down cottage, another cat smiled too and warmed herself in front of the fire. The village people knew about their cats that night. They still talk about the great storm and how their cats slept for a whole day and night afterwards. What would have happened had the great lighthouse lantern blown out, they wondered. Little did they know. By Friday, when the sea was all iridescent shades of blue again, the boat turned up with supplies. Mackerel felt sure he had seen the boat somewhere else, and when the cat of the color of the night with flashing eyes looked out and smiled, he knew where he'd seen those eyes. Now every night, whistling twice as loud, the lighthouse keeper still sits with Mackerel and his new friend. Together they scan the sea and watch the glow of the great lantern creeping far and wide as the sun sets and the moon rise. And Dean, he's really enjoying this book, right? Isn't that a great story about some very special cats, especially Mackerel? And Dean's giving his approval. I don't know if you can hear, but he's purring really loud. So he's so happy to be here with us. He'll come back again for sure. And we hope you enjoy some beaches, hopefully not any storms for the next week. And we'll see you on September 4th. And we're going to read a very special, actually one of my very favorite back to school books. And we hope you have a wonderful weekend. And now I'm getting a little bit of a love bite. So I'm going to go because I think now Dean would like to play. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye. We'll say bye to Dean. Say goodbye, Dean. There he is. Bye.